Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our interview with Curtis Boyd of the Transparency Company. If you missed it, be sure to catch part 1 of our conversation on review fraud. Thank you again for joining us.
So let's talk now about sort of the future of all of this. I mean, we can certainly unpack these topics and talk more about them, but let's turn our attention to there's a certain amount of quote unquote acceptable review fraud. There's documented consumer harm. We continue to see reports come out, and this data is in the report that you released. 99% of consumers rely on reviews, trust reviews as much as recommendations for friends or family. There are some data points, I was trying to cite them and I don't recall. There are some data points in the market that review trust and skepticism have gone up or gone down, as the case may be. There's more skepticism, there's a little bit less trust. But we continue to see these reports saying reviews are the number one, number two factor. And we've seen this in our own user testing that consumers rely upon. What is, given Section 230, given Google's sort of acceptance of these circumstances, what's going to happen? Is this just the future of the market? Millions and millions of fake reviews, the whack-a-mole game, nothing's going to change? Do you foresee any improvement, Curtis?
I am an optimist in that I see a solution, and we're trying to implement this solution across the marketplace, which is a major goal, and it's gonna take a lot of elbow grease. But I am optimistic that our new fake review laws will help enforcement. I'm still optimistic that
you're talking about the FTC rules.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the new FTC laws, and I'm also talking about newer vehicles for enforcers to more easily go after bad actors based off of these laws that I see a more clear pathway for. What we're also seeing is more and more agencies and organizations that are starting to care about review integrity as the solution for review integrity comes into play. Now that we have the ability to identify fake reviews and accurately and confidently label them as fake reviews in a way that's understandable, in a way that you can digest, we're finding that more smaller niches, more organizations are embracing this trust, this business of trust, and that it's becoming more important for them. So as we continue to generate momentum, and as we continue to highlight businesses with real reviews and show them what fake reviews look like, I feel there is a path forward through all of this. It just requires a little bit of empathy for those that are being hurt, right? The consumers that are being affected, the businesses that are being affected, and the motivation to get premium data and the will to act on it. So,
I would suggest that your solution and the FTC solution is to target the businesses that are buying the reviews, which is roughly like targeting the user of the cocaine. The reality is that it is both a systemic level issue with Google as well as a business level issue and in consumer level issues. There's multiple levels here. And the FTC is only targeting the business level and targeting them without adequate resources. Yeah. If Google and Amazon do not put adequate funding behind a systemic improvement, then it's going to be that, yes, there will be a group of people who approach reviews ethically. There always have been. But I've been fighting fake reviews now for 16 years, give or take. And I don't see it as much different than it's ever been at a massive scale. And I've learned as a result, as a consumer, to not use certain categories at Google at all because the reviews are just totally untrustworthy.
But you're an outlier, obviously. You're not a member of the general population.
That's correct.
I mean, Section 230 is
And in our research, we're seeing that the general population in the United States, 80% of them don't even read the reviews. They look at the star ratings, which makes this problem even more dangerous.
I think that Section 230 that you mentioned, Curtis, which insulates Google and Amazon and other platforms against liability for the content that appears on their sites, have limited incentives to solve the problem. I mean, they don't have no incentive, I would say, but they have limited incentives because there's no lawsuit waiting. There's no class action lawsuit waiting to ding them. Because if Section 230 didn't exist, there would be a lot of class action lawsuits by plaintiffs' attorneys who were representing consumers who've been defrauded by fake reviews on the platform. But that can't happen. And so, and I don't think Google is going to invest in humans. We're in a climate now where people are cutting jobs, turning jobs over to AI, which, AI has a certain role here to play, obviously, but I don't think that we're going to see more investments in review integrity unless or until Google sees some blowback from users or advertisers, which I don't think they will, like users, right? So if people stopped using Google because they suspected that more and more of the reviews on the platform were fake, then Google would do something about it. But I don't think that that's going to happen because there isn't another. I mean, as Mike says, it's a systemic problem. It's a problem of few alternatives. Consumers don't really have that many alternatives. You can do word of mouth. What I've started to do on Amazon, and I want to talk about this in a second. So Amazon has this virtual assistant Rufus, and it shows up, and you can ask questions about product pages, right? So it's like the Ask Maps about this place feature that Google recently introduced. So you go to a particular product, and you can ask questions about that product, and it looks at reviews, and it looks at product details and other stuff. And so I'm asking, how often is this product returned? What do the most critical reviews say about this product? And it's actually quite helpful in that regard. We're going to see, so there may be returns are a proxy for product quality. So there may be some alternative metrics that start to emerge that consumers can start to rely upon as a counterweight to reviews. But these platforms are starting to obscure reviews in the sense that they're doing AI review summaries. They're doing these virtual assistant things where you get to ask questions, so you don't need to read the reviews. And as Mike just said, the majority, depending on the vertical, the majority of users are not engaging with review text. Some people do, most people don't. They look at the review counts and the star ratings. And so, in a certain sense, unless or until there's an alternative to reviews, consumers are stuck. They're stuck. We're all kind of in this place of we don't have anything better to rely upon. We sort of know that they're fake. We don't have the capacity to determine that they're fake, absent some sort of badging solution or some overlay or something. There was Fake Spot that did an analysis. It was a browser plugin, and it would tell you on Amazon whether to trust the reviews or what the real review score should be for the product. Absent something like that, consumers are in a predicament.
I just hear a case of why we need to be speeding up our consumer product here, which is in the works. But currently, there is an absence of transparency for consumers, and they're being taken to the cleaners.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, the small businesses are suffering right along with them.
Yep.
So let's talk about that as our sort of final discussion here. What can local SEOs, digital marketers, and business owners themselves do, given everything we've said, given the sort of difficult situation, given the false positives, false negatives, etc.? What are the practical things that digital marketers and SEOs and agencies and the business owners themselves are able to do under the current set of circumstances?
Well, I think measuring the impact of competitors with fake reviews is basically a starting point of understanding whether or not you want to invest the time or energy or money into solving this as a problem. If a lot of people, fortunately, are ranking really well, they don't have competitors outranking them, and they don't have to worry about this. But a lot of businesses, maybe they're number 4, number 5, number 6 on the maps, and above them are competitors who they suspect of having fake positives because all of a sudden they got tons of new reviews, right? So taking a look at those reviews, getting evidence of fake reviews, getting it submitted to Google in the hopes that once per quarter they sweep it out and they clear out the garbage on their maps and they take it can be effective. We do offer a solution here at the Transparency Company to dispute illegitimate reviews after we collect evidence of it, and we do this on behalf of businesses. But I think that it starts with understanding how much this is impacting your business, and then figuring out how to get evidence of the fake reviews, how to get it submitted to Google, doing it yourself versus having someone else do it for you, and then measuring the outcomes. Generally,
can I interject just a small anecdote here? Somebody came to me with a fake negative review attack, and he was seeing a couple other in the AC business in Florida. He saw a couple other companies with a lot of fake positive reviews, and he came to me and I helped him deal with the fake review attack. And he asked me what he should do long haul, and I said, get out of AC, get into plumbing. Actually to leave the industry, because this wasn't in his particular industry, in his location. The reality of this wasn't going to change anytime soon. So to your point, he was suffering grave harm, and it was
that's a radical solution, though, Mike, to leave your industry and go into some other industry.
He thought it was a good idea, actually, as did I. Go ahead. Well, sorry for the interruption.
But that's not a solution to most of these business owners' problems. What about marketers, though? Is it just parallel advice for marketers to understand the problem and do the take down submissions?
Yeah, there's when we onboard clients, there's three main issues that we're looking at, right? The fake 1-stars, which are negatively impacting the businesses, the fake 5-stars that the competitors are using to steal market share away from them, and then understanding the whole level of compliance for the businesses that we're working with. We want to make sure that all their reviews are real and they're not in violation of the new FTC laws or don't have a target on their back for people to come after them, right? So
while SEOs understand some of the rules here, or many of the rules, there are a lot of businesses who don't fully understand what's permissible, what's not permissible, don't know Google's terms. And there's a gray area. Like, I'm starting a new hair salon and I've got a bunch of friends and family who know that I do a good job. And so I get them to write me reviews to give me a boost. And that's completely prohibited. It's well-intentioned, but people don't understand that kind of thing is prohibited. Or employees who write reviews. That's a little bit further into the black hat territory. But there's a gray area here.
Absolutely. So we like to educate our customers on what's going on with their own set of reviews. And fake 1-star reviews we're noticing come down a lot faster than competitor fake 5-star reviews. We're normally able to get the fake 1-star reviews off quickly, whereas fake competitor 5-star reviews, sometimes that can take, they won't start to see those results come in until the second month. We're working on fun new ways to get faster results on the 5-stars taken down. And I hope to do an update with you guys in maybe 2 or 3 months, because I think we're going to have a really exciting new discovery for fake 5-star review takedown, new methodology to get faster results on that.
So there's a company called gmbapi.com that did a study on which categories of reviews were being taken down and some other related issues. And by far in their data set, 5-star reviews were the ones that Google took down by far, and then 1-star was in second position, but far behind 5 stars, which makes sense, obviously.
Yeah, it verifies that our data is accurate in a sense that most fake reviews are 5-star. We've shown this, and now it's reflected in what they're observing being removed by Google.
But in this sort of game of increasing sophistication, increasing use of AI, and Mike's idea about sort of faking the profiles more credibly and so on and so forth, won't we start to see a lot of fake reviews in the 2-star and 4-point-star categories, because these guys are figuring out that these extremes are being eliminated or being targeted and being filtered in a certain sense? Won't they get more nuanced in their approach? We're going to give this one, 4.8. That kind of thing.
So what's really interesting, and the answer is yes. When we found the 2.3 million fake AI reviews, we started to categorize them by CID, basically the business that had these AI reviews. And we looked at star rating across these AI reviews. Now, naturally, most of them were 5-star, especially for businesses that had a lot of AI reviews. But we also noticed that they were injecting 1 and 2 and 4-star reviews amongst those 5-star reviews to create a better blend, I guess you could say, right? To not hit the algorithm, right? To not say, hey, you're posting too many 5-star reviews. You need a 1-star in there. You need a 2-star in there. So we've already been seeing more advanced fake review fulfillment centers using this tactic of not just saying, hey, as much as we'd love to just sell you 100 fake reviews, we kind of have to add a couple 2-stars in there. So we look for that.
I have a question for you. One of the things I've noticed in terms of dealing with Google on review moderation, fake reviews, is that if it's a rating only, it's with no text, it's much more difficult to get Google to take it down. So from a attack point of view, a 1-star rating is an easy way to reduce the rating, but a great way to mitigate whether that review that is taken down. How do you
advice for review fraudsters?
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's a reality. I've seen it, and I'm just curious if Curtis would address that question. And what do you do? Obviously, then you only have the profile to look at, which may or may not be meaningful or accessible.
What Google should do, Curtis, you can answer. What Google should do is they should zap all of those reviews without text. Just get rid of them. Get rid of them.
I don't see how a star rating without context is helpful for consumers making purchasing decisions.
But it reduces the business average, regardless of, even if Google doesn't show them in the list, it still reduces the average.
This is Yelp's point. You're echoing Yelp's point. Is that consumers want text, they want context, they want detail. And a lot of Google's reviews, at least in the past, didn't have that. They were just star ratings with very limited or no text. And so this was Yelp's competitive talking point. But it turns out that it's not true. Consumers don't really want to spend a lot of time reading text. They want to look at they want to use reviews to filter out businesses, and they look at numerosity and the counts and the rating, and they figure if they're enough. The way that they do this is they think there's enough reviews here that these are probably mostly correct, and it's a kind of a directional indicator of the business's quality. And they discount the idea that there's fraud in here because surely all of these aren't fraud, and there's enough of them to give me some sense of confidence that there's some legitimacy to this rating. I mean, I'm speculating, but I think that that's the way people think. I think that's the psychology.
Well, certainly based on what we've seen behavior, at least in the United States, where very few people actually read the reviews, it seems to be that they've somehow managed to convince themselves that.
Are we depressing you, Curtis?
It's one of those things where
Curtis has to be an optimist in the business he's in. That's
there are facts about consumer psychology that, of course, inherently are going to be upsetting because of the damages that incur because of that psychology, right? So, my goal is to educate consumers about the dangers of review fraud, and I hope to understand this psychology even better so that we can wedge ourselves in between this purchasing decision as a data point in their judgment of who to hire. So it needs to be taken into consideration.
And it's an existential issue for the businesses who have to rely heavily on these online sites because that's where consumers are. That's where the eyeballs are. Still there is this sort of use of other platforms, TikTok, social media, et cetera, to find businesses and to ask people about what their recommendations are, but they still have to rely very heavily on Google. And so those businesses that are being harmed are really, there is an economic impact that is potentially existential if your visibility is pushed down by fraudsters in your category.
Yeah.
So let's say something to end. Let's say something hopeful and optimistic, because I don't want to end on a downbeat note.
I'm super optimistic about the future, Greg. Even though the consumer psychology doesn't necessarily align with what the data says, we are going to change the world, you guys, and that this awareness around fake reviews and the momentum we have around truth and honest reviews are going to change.
I can tell you that Google responds to public shaming. If they get negative PR, if there's public shaming, if they're called out, if they're exposed, they do tend to respond to that. So to the extent that you can keep doing that, that's a good thing and helpful.
Quick question though: Do you think that the FTC enforcement, it's $50,000 per instance? Do you think that they will expand enforcement in the coming years of the new rules? And it's much easier for them to get a conviction now. But I'm just curious if you think we'll see feet on the street in that regard.
Yeah, I can't talk about active FTC stuff, but what I can say is that it's my personal expectation, outside of what I know, to see large fines be implemented in 2025. Really, just overwhelming amounts for the.
And this is based on existing investigations.
I can't talk about that at all.
Well, just the idea. You're not talking about particulars, but you have some personal knowledge that is supportive of your prediction. Is that correct?
He has an intuitive sense that there's going to be more fines in 2025.
I like that phrase.
But okay,
against
well, that's
mostly larger businesses or smaller businesses or both. What does your intuition say in that regard?
Larger businesses worth over $100 million need to be paying attention to every single review they have.
Well, this is the logic of FTC enforcement. They try and make an example in the hope of deterring others from participating.
But the fines are bigger too, because at 50,000 per instance, it adds up pretty quickly.
Well, in Europe, with Europe used to have very relatively modest fines that was just a cost of doing business for these big platforms. Now that they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and into the billions and billions of dollars, people are paying attention and they're changing their behavior. Zuckerberg just said he wants Trump to put pressure on Europe to stop its antitrust enforcement.
That was just just after he put his MAGA hat on and went all testosterone on us.
Right, but I mean, the reason that he said that, the reason that he expressed his masculine energy in this direction is because they're paying many billions of dollars for violations that they don't want to pay anymore. And those increased fines have gotten their attention and have started to hurt. So they're trying to undermine them in a very unethical, very dubious way. But nonetheless, to reinforce your point, big fines will get attention. They may not solve the problem, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the industry.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, again, thanks, Curtis, for joining us as a guest, and thanks for your sponsorship. We really appreciate your support. We will continue, obviously, to hear from you in terms of review fraud and what you're seeing in the market. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and be sure to come to our new office hours. They're going to be very interesting Q&A opportunities where we'll be talking about things in depth.
This episode was brought to you by the Transparency Company. If you would like more information on Near Media sponsorships, please reach out to Greg Sterling, gsterling@nearmedia.co.